Guys, I'm here in my memory palace. I'm trying to figure out where I left all of my good introduction ideas. I can't seem to find them. I'm looking everywhere. I can't manage it. I keep getting distracted and I just keep finding other things that I think about in my mind palace all of the time. All of my important memories are locked away in here and I'm finding so many things I think about instead. Okay, this seems like maybe there's some important things that are important to... No, I don't want anyone to see that. Where? Oh! Perfect. Exactly what I was looking for. Welcome back to another episode of BurgCraft. Today, I have a goal of getting a bunch of tiny farms for ingredients that are not simple to grab normally. And I'm going to do it. I'm not following any guides. I'm just going to see what I can't manage. Very first one's a little bit big because of the theming of the base and the overuse. I need end rods. And the easiest way to get end rods is with blaze rods and just craft them. So I need a blaze farm. Now, if I head my way to a spot over here, I have torched the path this time actually to the gold farm. If I head my spot over here, you can see that I was doing a little bit of shenanigans and I forgot to bring blocks, so I brought gold blocks instead. Got a little hole down here. And if we follow the hole downwards, we enter a very odd nether fortress. But look at that. 2 blaze spawners basically next to each other. So my goal is going to be to try to make a farm out of both of them. Something I've never done before, and I'm just going to try to like use the knowledge I have to make it work. So I have a bunch of supplies. You, and I need you. Ow, ow, ow. I'm gonna try to disable this. I think I know how to do this. Okay. This one is now turned off, despite my eyes. Go over and turn off the other one. Actually, no, not yet, not yet. Ah! Holy shit. That scared the crap out of me. Alright, everything's fine. Okay, both of these are now turned off, so that I can get working. Basically, what I have to do is get a spot where I'm standing in between them. They all just sort of flow in my direction. So if I'm not mistaken, though, this is going to take a little bit of clearing to make sure I can actually make the spawn areas. This place is a nightmare. I'm going to make a little home base, I think, so that I can, you know, survive and have the time to actually think, so I can get this place torn down. So we'll tear it down and we'll be right back. I'm digging, you know, I'm taking stuff down, digging netherrack and stuff, you know, that I don't have anything to say about this. It's just digging, walking around, making a safe spot, doing more digging. I've got to fill up the next few seconds with this while you know, dig down. I made a platform down there. See that later. You know, some rings and stuff. Oh, thank God, we're almost done. Oh no, I started that sentence too early. So I've got some rough things. I've cleared out a little bit. I've got a couple things kind of sorted out here. Shader's off because I was staring directly into frog lights and it was hurting my eyes. So this is the bounds of the spawnable area that we're going to have for each of the blaze spawners. This marks basically the exact center between them. And down here, down there, I've made this little glass little starter spot. So basically what you end up wanting to do, as far as I'm aware, is like, it's kind of like most mob spawners in the sense that the way they work is they spawn in the area and there's a certain amount of time that passes, and then after that amount of time passes, they check to see, for another spawning attempt, they check to see if there's a certain amount. I don't remember exactly what it is for blaze, but they check to see if there is blaze within vicinity of the spawner. If there are, it doesn't spawn any. So we want to get them out as fast as possible. We want to get them out of the spawnable area and then kind of coalesce them into one middle area. This middle area marks a spot. So I want to get them down there to where this is kind of where the killing chamber is going to go. I don't know how exactly yet I am going to make them go down. Like, I don't know the path that we're going to take. I'm just kind of clearing out the space so I can kind of think, essentially. But I'm thinking it's going to be mostly drop, and then they'll just sort of, they'll drop, and then I'll kind of try to combine them into the same chamber. So I think it'll make sense to kind of figure out where the main chamber is, which is just to help my brain do that process. Just clear out where the main chamber is, and then I can work out where to bring them. Actually, I'm not going to need a whole lot of tunneling here, because, you know, they're basically on top of each other. I made some, I used mini HUD to make some spheres, some spawning spheres on them. These are the areas where they'll be active, and you can see the amount of overlap between the two spheres. And it goes like all the way down here. So I've gotten this one spot of overlap, and then I'll put a little, oh god, a little killing chamber. I don't know how it's going to look yet. Okay, so yeah, this is what I'm thinking killing chamber looking like. Trapdoors, so the XP stays there, and, you know, swing at them. Just give them a lot of space. Because these guys aren't spawners aren't affected by the mob cap, so that's alright. So I'm thinking it'll be easier. Actually, you know, look at this. Like, I could probably actually just funnel the guys from both of them directly in if I am sensible with the lava. I should take them out of the spawn sensing sphere too. I'll build the top actually, and then. No, this is looking good. Okay, I think I can work with this. I think this is something I can do. I think these are all the considerations, and then it's just going to be working things out. It was actually really difficult to figure out where all the blades are going to end up being, like what makes sense. I built a couple of test paths and didn't really like them, so I had to come back to it. I ended up having to just pretty much dig down to as low as I wanted to go and just try to figure it out from there. And also, I realized that I don't have flow mechanics kind of worked out. Like, I don't know intuitively how to make lava work. So that took a little bit of time to figure out, but, you know, here's something, I guess, coming up. Okay, so got one section of this done. It took a little bit of fiddling, but I've gotten to the point where the blaze from one side do end up in the killing chamber. They do get stuck, however. And I think the reason is because the lava stops there. In that... Ah, what the fuck? I also haven't made that area safe. So... now, if any of my... I'm pretty sure I made a full floor. Pretty sure. You can tell that jump scared me because I hit F3 instead of get out of free cam. It kind of looks like something might have gone missing given the location. Okay. I do have a little safety. Right. That's my helmet. Alright, it's fire resist potion time. It's time to be brave. And do something fucking dumb as hell. I also lost my food. And I think that's it. I think I lost food, helmet, but I think the rest survived. I just have to go get my helmet. And there's only one way to do such a thing. We load up on these. Fire resistance, 2 minutes. Let's go. Helmet acquired. Ooh, okay. But it's also quite handy generally because I think I need to have fire resist on because I have to get in there. To try to figure out how to get the lava to go forward one more. So what if I'm sorry, I need to get away. It looks like this would actually be working, except they keep getting stuck right here against each other, primarily. But with enough of them, they start pouring in. Oh, I see a problem. They try to get out. So that's one of the things that's kind of messing with them, is that they're trying to leave. Because they can, because it's only one block. But if I was to drop this one level, then that wouldn't be a problem. I'm gonna get some food and we'll go back to the drawing board and see what happens. Okay, I made a couple slight modifications. I moved this killing chamber down one singular block. And on the inside here, I placed a bunch of vines. I just placed them up against this glass here, and then there's one in the tube there. Whenever mobs run into vines, it turns off their hitbox, so they can't collide into each other. I was getting a lot of like bunching up here at the entrance, and this will solve it. Now, this only works here because I have fire tick turned off in this world. If I was to be, if I was doing this in a different world where there was fire tick, or if you, for example, are like trying to like, you're watching this and becoming inspired to try it yourself, instead of vines, I would use weeping vines, the red ones. There's some just literally over here. These, the weeping vines. The thing that I'm not 100% sure on, though, is like, because weeping vines, you have to place them on top of, like, it has to be under a block and it comes down. If you put them at the top of this chamber, like if you put them all the way up here and put them down, would that mess with the spawns? I don't know. I genuinely am not sure. But that would be a good alternative, because those are not flammable. But yeah, this is good. Blaze rods. So many blaze rods. This is working already. Now the next step would be to add the other spawner, and maybe what I've learned from this, I can carry forward, or I can't. I'm not sure which. We'll see what happens. When I was building this, I was trying to figure out how to get the lava to go to like a very specific spot, so that all the blaze would end up together. But I just couldn't get it to. I couldn't figure it out. I could not do it. And at a certain point, I was just kind of like, okay, I want to get this done, and really having it in the same spot doesn't matter that much. Watching this back, it's funny watching me move around and seeing the blaze fly up everywhere, trying to follow me, and you can start to see a bit of a problem forming. So I've tried two different, like, kind of like funneling setups. I was trying to get them to go to the same place, but I couldn't manage it. I couldn't figure it out in the dimensions that worked. And you can see how this one's working. This is like a 2x2. Some signs stopping the lava. They're stopping in there. And that seems to be working out pretty well. Like, no backup. Like, there's one guy who's kind of stuck. Guy's kind of climbing out. But they'll like... They do make it down here eventually. There's not really been a backlog to speak of. Yeah, it spawns in, and it falls down, and it gracefully... It just sort of, like, works its way in, and there's not really a problem. A little bit of floating going on here and there. No big deal, they're ending up in there. Now, the other one's got a bit of a different story. There's a bit of a backlog. I did what I could to try to get them to be able to fit. They can't. They can't fit. They just don't make it. They just kind of get stuck. So, this one isn't working. I can't even see how many there are because of the smoke from all the particles. And clearing it does nothing, right? Like, because there is no hitboxes, right? Like, they're not running into each other. They just don't want to go in here. Like, they are just stuck. I can't even diagnose it because there's so many. Oh, look at this. Got a couple. No worries. Oh, shit. There's no worries at all. Smooth, simple. fundamentally a disaster. So this might require a bit of a redesign. Blaze rods, though. All sorts. Ignore the deep slate and chicken. And chests and everything. This is working. I do have some blaze rods, so I mean, if nothing else, I've got that going for me. Maybe put a, actually, should I maybe put a sign in there where that lava is? Okay. 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 No. Oh god, what the hell? Why are they coming through now? When I misclicked a sign there. I wanted the sign to go there. Does this work? Oh. I will consider this a success if there ends up at any point not being a gigantic backlog of that size. Because at a certain point it does appear that they just get stuck there. Despite the inefficiencies, this is technically still functioning. I made a little safety staircase up here to get down to this area. See, what keeps happening, right, is that a bunch of them pour out, and I'm like, dang, is this finally working? But then it backs up again eventually. I'm gonna leave for a few minutes and see what happens. So I changed one thing. There was I can't even show you. I took out an extra glass block up there, and it seems to be flowing a little better. They can get a little easier. There's still a bit of a backlog, but it's working. Downside with this one, they get in easier, but they hide in the back, and I can't actually hit them that well. So, but I can go forward, right? I can try to go over here and hit them. But then they actually can see me, and they shoot me. So that's not ideal. So downsides to both, but it's still working. There's still plenty of blaze rods in here. And for my purposes, that's gonna have to do. Because I'll be honest, this is cool. Like, it's cool to have this, and I'm happy to say that I've done it, right? I'm happy to say that I have gone through the trials and tribulations. But at a certain point, it just becomes the most aggravating experience just on the planet. Because it's like each one is end up being like has to be specific, and you're trying to get to a certain spot, and you have to decide, I'm gonna stand here, and then once you've done that, you're trying to like make everything like work to these like this place that you've ended up picking to stand. But if there's a problem with it, you don't realize until after you've already built everything. And then it becomes like it's gonna be such a hassle. Not to mention, like, in order to make sure that your like lava flow is working, I was like, all right, I'll take out the lights and go look at it, but then everything spawns and there's lava everywhere, and then it's not easy to turn the spawner off again. What's gonna happen, right, is I'm gonna edit this and I'm gonna look up, is there a convenient way to like kind of turn off these spawners? And I'm gonna look it up, and I'm gonna be really annoyed. There's gonna be something really obvious and easy that I didn't think of. Anyways, regardless, I have this. It functions, ish. It makes blaze rods. That's a mission accomplished. Project complete. Now I can make so many end rods. So many end rods. It's ended up being like a week or so since I recorded the last bit making the blaze farm. There has been some progress. First thing is that, you'll see I've added a large line of frog lights here into the middle, because I came over to this bamboo farm the other day, and there was just giant chunks of bamboo just missing. Like, it was just gone, like, in a bunch of different places, and I'm not sure what caused it. My best guess is that some like creepers or skeletons spawned in here, and they were getting into some fights, and something exploded. But none of the mud was gone. So I genuinely am not sure if there's any reason why anyone would know. I've literally never run into this problem. So if there's a reason like anyone would know why the bamboo was suddenly unplanted, I would greatly appreciate it. I did a couple of streams both on Twitch and YouTube. If you didn't catch those, here's a great glimpse on what sort of thing you're missing out on. I don't know how I feel about pegging because I don't know if I don't like it or if she wasn't good at it. Wow, wasn't that interesting? Now, what I did during those streams is I made a bunch of just tiny farms. So now we have wigglers, as I like to call them, for some nether plants. One for the crimson ones and for the warped ones. Which whenever I hit the note block, it's gonna start generating. So that's fantastic. What I did was I made a series of just these kind of tiny farms for different plants. So we have one here. These are all just sort of things that just like they all work the same. They spam bone meal and it makes a plant. So first off, I'll just torch up here. We have this hanging moss farm. You just have to bone meal the base and then you can shear the bottom. So I hit this switch and that pulls this piston back, pulls back this observer, spamming the dispenser. So I can just go, yep. And I get pale hanging moss. Also, we have, I believe this one is, let me just break this to show you, is for firefly bushes. Firefly bushes, you don't need shears or anything to break. If you just break them with the piston, then they'll just be collected. So in the back, there is a dispenser. Same thing, getting spammed by observer clock, spitting bone meal at it. It also pushes this piston down because when you bone meal a firefly bush, it generates another bush next to it. So I have this just to keep everything in. And underneath, there's also mud with copper mine carts pushed in. But just to demonstrate, I can just go like this. And that will generate firefly bushes. All sorts. Nice. And a little staircase to put the bone meal in. Sleep time. Oh, it's actually really dark in this area. I'm just at least temporarily fix that with torches. This will have buildings around in the future, but these are the sort of things where it's like, I want to have these for needs, and then I can figure out what to do with it later. Here is functionally the same setup as the firefly bushes, but with bushes. Single dispenser. Observer clock pushes it. Hopper mine carts and some mud underneath it because when you bone meal a bush, it makes one next to it. But this one just has to be sheared. So, and get a bunch of bushes. Here is for, ooh, there's no stairs here. Get up to that. Oops, 1 second. Now this is for the dried grass from the desert. If you bone meal the tall grass, it'll make a small grass next to it. I can just do that if I wanted to. Hit this button and harvest to get the small grass. But as well, if you bone meal the small grass, you get tall grass. So if I turn it on and then pull this lever for the second dispenser, I get the tall version instead. And what that second lever is doing, this is just powering the dispenser, which makes it so that when the observer clock over here goes off, it doesn't activate because it's already empowered. You can't repower it. And lastly, hanging vines. Once again, observer clock, pull back. That is pushing a dispenser, pushing bone meal into this rooted dirt, which makes the vines. We get a bunch of hanging vines from that. Hanging roots, that's what they are. I know what the blocks are called. I've played Minecraft before. These ones are nice. These are nice and simple. Like they don't take like a tutorial realistically. All it is something turns on the dispenser and you break it. Like this, even this firefly bush, you can manually break it if you want. You don't need the piston, but tiny farms to make just like little things. These will be nice for mean, right now we've been primarily focusing on like city sorts of infrastructure, but eventually there will be some terraforming, so that'll be nice to have around, just in case for the future. I've also been spending time with the miniature tunnel bore and just pushing it a few blocks. As you can see, we're making good progress. I want this to be, the simulation distance here is 14 chunks. So I'm trying to get it so that this is 14 chunks long, because once this is, and I'm going to move this machine back a few blocks past that. Then we can build the full version, the entire length of this tunnel. But I've been using this to get a whole bunch of deep slate, which has been wonderful. Normally what I'm going to do when I'm doing like tunnel bore stuff is, this was like a lava lake. Normally I would just sort of leave it, but I was like, I'm going to be working in this area, and having a large pit to catch fire in sounds like a recipe for disaster. But it still works and hasn't exploded once. That's fantastic. As a result, I've been getting a pretty good amount of tuff and gravel. There's all this ore as well I've been slowly collecting. But the deep slate numbers are doing quite well. So we're probably going to be super set for our buildings, which is really exciting. I haven't even done the full tunnel bore, and I'm pretty much set for deep slate, and that's exciting. Annoyingly, because I have a real job that isn't just playing Minecraft, I haven't really had much time to actually like plan or gather or record. So I'm falling a little bit behind here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this building. I'm not going to promise it's done. I do want to have like a reasonable episode cadence, which is currently non-existent. But I think I'm going to try to finish this. I think I said something different at the start, but like when I first started recording and planning for this episode when I started it. But that's how time works, I guess. You change. But I would like to have more of this building done. Not promising completion necessarily, but I'm gonna chip away at it and see what can be done. So now we're gonna go to a time lapse. Wow, that time certainly is lapsing. I decided to just build up the ground in the middle here, and I'm kind of left with this sort of an ugly, unchanged grass cube. We're gonna have to accept that for now until I come up with better ideas. I'm also not finishing this because it's a lot, but it's a lot of just sort of filling out the individual details. I want, like, it is the same pattern, but I did want to try to come up with like different little areas so it wasn't just like all the same, a little bit of character to each of the windows. And I had to take a couple of breaks randomly to go find some flowers. Like, I didn't have any too tall flowers. I just didn't bother, so I had to go for a little adventure for those. Trying to figure out the mine carts to make little baskets again, which was kind of a pain. But as you can see, that, oh no, that cube, that box that I gotta do something about that later. Oh, it's horrific. I'm so sorry. So I've kind of finished the first floor here, right? The ground doesn't make any sense. We're gonna have to gloss over that for now. But the building is kind of going the whole way around. And I was taking some time to sort of think about what the rest of the building is gonna be. Which is, that's surprisingly difficult. Because realistically, all I need for this to be covered is like a few more blocks than roof. But then I was thinking, just because of the width of the building, just because of the dimensions, like I can make a good industrial looking roof, right? I'm not shy. I think I can manage it. But then I had an idea. I was thinking, like, what am I gonna do with this? What am I gonna do with this? And I was sitting there thinking, and I thought back to these little farms that I recently made. When I was making them, I was like, oh, they're tiny. If I need to rebuild them somewhere else, that's fine, because I can just kind of turn them on, turn them off, get a little bit, and I can move them somewhere. If I can move them somewhere else, if that location ends up being wrong. When I was thinking about Cyberpunk 2077, and they have the mega buildings in those. Now, if you're not familiar with the game, the mega buildings are apartment complexes that also have a lot of industry in them. Like they're kind of like designed in a way where you realistically don't need to leave. They're quite large. They have apartments on like an inner side, and then there's actually a middle open courtyard that basically like is like multiple floors, and it has little businesses. And I was like, what if I just did that with little businesses, but the little businesses with the tiny farms? We could have some places that were like produce delivery or something that have like the output from the actual crop farm. We can have specialized locations for that. We can have like, I could even put in some like farmer villagers or something, and then have those tiny farms in different places around there. So that this ends up being this kind of like giant center where business is conducted. And that also fits because a lot of the times in that kind of building style, we have like, you have like the base floor, which is like a business of some kind. It has its original purpose, and then the apartments are kind of stacked on top of it. So I think I'm gonna do that. But also, what I've basically done with that good idea is I've completely screwed myself over in terms of workload, because that's going to be a lot, and I don't think if I wanted to get this episode out in a reasonable amount of time, I don't believe that's a good project to start. Because I feel like it's going to take a while. It's going to be like a multi-episode kind of thing, kind of chipping away at it. Which I feel like is going to be true for, and it's going to end up being true for a lot of things. Farms are easy, right? Look at them. Tiny. Basically no moving parts. They're easy, but ooh, that's going to be a lot. But I'm pretty happy, generally speaking, with like the little shop windows. I was doing crops a lot, and you know, I'm just free camming. I was doing a lot of like crops. I decided to use flowers instead because it's a little bit easier to set up, especially on the corners. And it's like a little pop of color when you end up seeing it, which I think is nice. I tried doing the minecart thing with the carrots. I thought the carrots would come through a little bit more. They don't really, unfortunately, but this is such a pain to set up. I don't want to do it again. You know, just using a lot of some like flowers and stuff. The idea being, I guess, that like, you know, the sort of things that would be growing in a, oh my God, I've forgotten the hydroponic area. So what I think I'm going to do instead for the time being is I'll take this opportunity. I'm going to finish the roof on this building because that is an achievable goal. It's small, and seems more consistent. So I'm gonna, and having this giant pit is kind of, you know, it's a little bit alarming. So I'm gonna finish this off, I think. Once again, returning to the neurodivergent experience where I've just basically done a bunch of random tasks everywhere. That's how it is. I feel like for me in particular, that like trying really hard to focus down on like, I'm gonna do one thing to completion. I can do that with farms, I feel like, pretty easily, and like contraptions. Sometimes. Not all the time, sometimes. But oh, I have a cat now. But I can't always do that. I have to kind of move around sometimes just for my own brain's sake. Time to get this started. So I'm just kind of starting off with a template and then like figuring out what I'm going to add after that. It's just easier on my brain to have a blank canvas and then figure it out. None of this is purpose made. Like this isn't stuff that I planned. I was just like, oh, this needs a thing here and a space here and a thing here. I've kind of worked up this like level of, these are certain like little like doohickey looking things and little machines, or things that look like machines at least, that I can add that kind of look a little bit vaguely technological. Basically just taking redstone blocks and putting them together, furnaces and things like that. But it's easier for me to just sort of have the blank smooth stone roof and then sort of work from there and just see what I can't do. So you see, I'm just like having to fall repeatedly and falling into stuff all the time. And no, you know, I don't know what any of these things do. They kind of look like fans and pipes and machines and I don't know, things. It looks fine, I guess. Anyways, here's the end of it. All right, so I think the rooftop here is looking done. I could add more stuff, but I think at that point it's becoming a little bit too hyper detailed. There's like a couple things that I kind of think of whenever I end up doing these sort of like urban rooftops. It's like I feel like all I'm doing is kind of just making doohickeys. I'm just doing random things. I'm like, I don't know. Is this a machine? Probably. It's like fans, I guess. These are like pipes or something. And like I'm adding bits to the wall, and I'm like, I don't know what this is, but this kind of looks, broadly speaking, technological, right? So I'm okay with that. I do also like to think of, the sort of things I end up seeing on rooftops, red lights in different places. And I do try to think of too that like on these big rooftops, there's always a way to get up. So I do try to want to make a thing that is like, it's not actually a functioning thing, but and there are ways to add like the smallest amount of movement. So I kind of I threw this together here, right? Where it's got some lights. We got a little bit of animation going. The only thing is, so I have that. That's here. This is what's controlling the animation. Just a bunch of observers going in a circle forever. The only thing is that, like, to my knowledge, these sorts of kind of like absurd observer things tend to add lag to your area. I know that some of that I think is based off of like the elder wisdom, where like there was a lot of optimizations that happened a few years ago for a lot of this stuff. But I am still nervous about it because this is going to be a largely functional area with like machines and farms and things like that. It's going to be dense. How much of this do I actually really want to have? I threw it together. I can re-add it at some point. It still looks cool. And realistically, it's not like we're going to be up here looking at it very often. It just sort of adds a little bit of life. But if the whole area kind of comes together and it's kind of still performing well, I think I'll re-add that. The door's going to stay closed because, this isn't a functional, reasonable space. This is just what's required to get it to work. But yeah, I think this is good. So like the flyby, that actually looks like a building. This looks like a place that things occur in. So I'm actually really happy with how that's turned out. Well, I think that's going to be it for today. Apologies for the length of time it took to get to here. If you've been waiting, I real life gets in the way and it makes it difficult to record. So everything's been like in little tiny chunks over time, and it's been very difficult to kind of think about like working on like a large project. I just haven't had the time to actually sit and do that. But hopefully that changes up because the demands of the real job are a little bit lighter at the moment and less extreme deadlines. So I'm hoping that changes up and we'll work on some cool new things soon. If you liked what you saw, make sure to like the video, maybe subscribe, do all of those things. That would be wonderful, wouldn't it? I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks and bye.